So in my opinion, the data looks already clearer now because of all the colors. Now something else comes to my mind. We have blank cells here. Here's a blank cell, here's a blank cell, here's a blank cell. Blank cells are usually a bad sign because in the theory I study computer science. This means that really something is missing because usually there's no reason to keep a line blank. There's another thing I want to tell you. If you work with a file and you shape it and you really make a better quality, you should always save it under a different name. You never know what information you may destroy. So this is all IT systems. I usually name these like this. I have the original name and then the date. So this is the day I'm recording this. And I usually, when I work with Excel files, I make a new version at least every day, sometimes 3 or 4 times a day. That sounds a little bit ridiculous maybe, but I made this experience so often that by mistake I destroyed something, I deleted something important, and then when you have the latest update last day or a couple of hours ago, you can always go back. Many people just overwrite the old version and then they lost maybe weeks of work. So it's always easy to delete all the old versions, but it's not easy to know what went wrong with a formula, or if you maybe sometimes you delete a whole line. So now I save it under this name, and this is the original file, IT systems, and then I usually add this, for example, original file or something like this in parentheses. So I know this is the original untouched file I got from my colleague, with all this stuff and the original filter. I don't change something here. And this is my file which I already did something on. Okay. So now there come the blank cells. Blank cell is always bad. What I want to say is you never know if a blank cell is on purpose or not. It can mean unknown, or it can mean I know it but I don't want to write it, or it can mean today, right? So valid from, valid to. So you cannot just assume that if something is blank here in the valid to, for example, that means today. So what do you do here? But let's go back to the columns before I explain you what you should do here. This is obviously a list of servers. This is a system ID, some numbers, and you don't have to understand it because it's only for a computer. It just has to be a single and unique ID. This is very important. No ID should be double. This is the owner. The owner can be maybe a department or something, an abbreviation. You don't have to understand it now. You should understand it later, but maybe not now. Then the type, we have only server and rack here. Of course, you have to learn what this is. Server is maybe a small IT server, and a rack is a big thing with 20 hard disks or something like that. And you have to understand, you have to ask your colleague what this means in your context. Then you have valid from, valid to. That should usually mean when was the server built and when was the server shut down. Hardware costs with a Y, so yearly, I guess, and maintenance costs yearly. And again, you should ask your colleague, what does this mean? What is hardware costs? Is this the cost of new hard drives every day, or is this the SAP license cost? What is maintenance cost? Is this the cost of the IT contractors, or is this SAP license cost? Really, it's very, very often, sometimes you're really surprised how little the people know about their own Excel tables. I have sometimes the same problem that I have so many columns and I work with the data and I cannot explain every column. And usually there's no manual, there comes no manual. So if you want to work really professional, you should really sort that out and ask the people what does this exactly mean? And you will be surprised how little of them can answer. So maybe you need a couple of days, 1 week, 2 weeks to understand this. And you can make note for yourself, Word or something else. You can do it here in Excel. You just leave a comment for yourself. You say, for example, hardware cost is SAP licenses and something like that, as contractors, hard drives or whatever. I don't know. I really don't know. This is just an example, and this example stands for all the bad Excel files you get from the people. And I have, of course, taken only random numbers.